comes to his presence, Yahweh does not play, and neither should we. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 5 of the Torah portion B'midbar in the wilderness. Let's go over to chapter number 4 now in the book of Numbers, B'midbar. Begin with verse number 1, and then we'll skip down a little bit after a few verses. Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, Take a census of the sons of Kohath from among the children of Levi, by their clans, by their fathers' houses, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, all who enter the service to do the work of the tent of appointment. And this is the work or the service of the sons of Kohath in the tent of appointment, the most set apart matters. At the breaking of camp, Aaron and his sons shall come, and they shall take down the covering veil and cover the ark of the witness with it, and they shall put on it a covering of fine leather, and spread over that an all blue wrapper, and shall insert its poles. And then it follows that each of the furnishings are to be treated and wrapped in certain layers of fabrics or leathers. Everything is covered with a fine leather covering. And then the poles for carrying are inserted not by the Kohathites, but by the Kohanim, by the priest. We drop down to verse number 18 and 19. Do not cut off the tribe of the clans of the Kohathites from among the Levites, but do this to them, and they shall live and not die when they approach the most set apart objects. Aaron and his sons shall go in and appoint each of them to his service and burden. Now, verse 20, they are not, however, to go in to watch while the set apart objects are being covered, lest they die. Yesterday, I may have kind of left you hanging when we talked about another verse that says in verse number 10 of the previous chapter, and the stranger who comes near shall be put to death. That is, those who approach the Levites' duties and responsibilities who are not called to those offices are in the danger of death. But even among the accepted crowd of Yah's presence, those that he has called by name and assigned by tribe and by clan, by distinction to come and to serve him in certain capacities, he says there are boundaries, there are proprieties. You could use the word protocols here, methodologies that I sanction, that I approve of, and then you may come in and operate within those given acceptable arenas or parameters. Specifically, the Kohathites were the ones privileged to go in and put their hands on the poles that had been inserted through the rings into the various furnishings, whether it's a table of showbread or the menorah or the Ark of the Covenant, however they were to be transported. They had the privilege of putting their hands on the poles. But that was the limit of what they could touch. While they could pick up the pole that was inserted through the rings of the ark, they could not touch the ark. It's a fine line, but they had to observe it. In 1 Samuel chapter number 6, there is the familiar story of how that, 2 Samuel chapter number 6, there is the familiar story of how the Uzzah, who was a Kohathite, reached out his hand to steady the ark as it was being transported on an ox cart. That's not Yah's way. That's the way the pagans transport their gods. Yah says, this ark of my covenant, this symbol of my presence, it's not me, but it symbolizes who I am and where I am enthroned in the midst of Israel. You can touch the pole, but you cannot touch the ark. Uzzah had been trained from early childhood. He was known that his role was going to be a certain responsibility. He knew that he knew that he knew that he knew, I cannot touch the ark. and yet he stuck his hand out to touch what he was not permitted. Instantly, he was cut off. There is this inward, inert, almost craving in man to get a hold of the holy, to set apart. Moshe is on the mountain and he is saying, show me your face. I want to see your face. And while we would maybe applaud this passion that he may have had about, yes, I understand, I would love to see the face of the Father as well, to do so would take away the mystery of Yah, the unobtainable part of him. It would be to cross one of the last bridges between ourselves and our Creator at a level that would have made Moshe a glorified human being instead of Yah being the one glorified. Yah gave him as much as he could handle. And there is this yearning in man, I want to see the face of my Creator. I want to behold your lovingness. I want to behold your mercies and so forth. But all that is in the face of Yah is not always positive. There is also the aspect of his judgment and his excruciating justice at times, his absolute purity, his overwhelming set-apartness that we're not set up for. We can't handle that. Yet we crave it. There is this yearning to see. I just want to see. I mentioned a minute ago, 1 Samuel chapter 6 is the story of where the Ark of the Covenant has been in the possession of the Philistines and it's come back, and it ends up down at Bethshemesh, and the men of that locality were struck dead because they dared to look inside the Ark. What was it that possessed them to even attempt such a maneuver? Curiosity. I don't know that it would have been, hey, we're men of Israel, we're entitled, or we're justified in doing so, or we prayed and fasted and now we're set apart, it should be permitted to us now. Maybe somebody stood up and prophesied, hey, where to go and look. But when they did so, they were struck down because they were not entitled. Their curiosity got more of them than what they should have been willing to give. I want to seek him. I want to know him at a greater place than presently. I think we all do. But my yearning for Yah cannot be based on human curiosity. Because curiosity will justify whatever means we employ to get what we want. Curiosity is about settling the question of the human mind. I just want to see. I just want to taste. I just want to experience. Ultimately, that's a craving of flesh and not of the spirit. Yah says in his Torah, do not study out how that the pagans serve their gods. Don't investigate their procedures, their altars, their wisdom, quote unquote, the stories and myths of their gods. Doesn't belong to you. Why would he say, if it's a lie, why worry about it? Because even investigating lies, even investigating things in darkness, curiosity gets stirred. A lot of well-meaning people have ventured into the realm or arena of a spiritual warfare situation or studying out the darkness to try to understand it so they know how to, quote unquote, pray about it. Yah says don't do that. Why? Because the curiosity of the human mind will push us over a ledge into the place of flesh and not the seeking of the Spirit. We may touch the things that Yah has given to us to handle, but we're not to gaze on it and be glory seekers. Something to think about. However, at Shabbat, he wants to reveal himself, reveal his presence. May you find that presence, be favored, blessed, and given the wonders of his marvelous presence for Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you next week.